Yeah, so I work for Hydrolix. It's a streaming data lake solution. I guess the problem we solve is we help you store data for cheaper and query faster. So the way this helps is if you are storing your CDN logs, if you store them with us, that gets you kind of close to like 10x compression, so you'll be paying really relatively lower costs, and everything is hot storage, so you can query the data that's like a day old and get the same performance back for a data that's like 1 year old. So that's kind of our USP. That's sort of the domain we play in, and yeah, I think we do a decent job at it. That's what makes us great. Like I think really our primary focus is CDN logs, and we've been really doing great at it. Very recently, we were in the Super Bowl that happened earlier this year. We were kind of helping out with the CDN logs behind the scenes, which is a pretty massive success. We were processing like petabyte scale of data in a day, which is ginormous. So we can really deliver at scale, and that is where we kind of shine against our competitors. That's an interesting question. I don't know if there is one single factor. I think it was culmination of a bunch of things. I guess if I do have to point out though, I guess maybe like being customer focused. I've always been interested in like the broader business value an engineering solution brings, how it betters the life of an end customer, what value it brings. That like 10,000, 30,000 feet view is something that I was always kind of excited about, even when I was an IC engineer. And while like when I was an IC engineer, I would kind of go look for these hackathon projects, or I would do things on the side, or I would gravitate to problems that would have business impact, and I would like kind of install myself in those situations. And looking back, a lot of it was not even intentional. Those were the things that I found interesting and I would gravitate to. So I think that kind of eventually opened up the path. So I knew that I wanted to get into management, eventually engineering management. And my core is still engineering, and I love technology. So which is why I think engineering management kind of made sort of a lot of sense for me, and that path eventually opened up. I obviously met a lot of good like mentors along the way who kind of helped me succeed in this path. So I guess like a lot of those things added up, which is how I landed on the engineering leadership career path. No. Yeah, I wish I had the bandwidth to code, but it's been a while. I stay close to technical decision making. I stay close to technical architecture, system design, those kinds of things. I'm very involved in those aspects at an engineering level. But yeah, once in a while, I'd get excited about writing a one-off script. I would give it a try on a weekend, but I think that's code for my personal satisfaction and not code that I would commit to our repositories. But I feel like, yeah, that's kind of my involvement at the code level at this point. I guess scale is definitely a big challenge at this point. We went through super high growth phase over the last few years. We literally went from under 10 customers to 500 customers within less than 2 years, which is massive. I think the fact that our product works at scale has really been sticking with our customers. But then we also like have to continue to deliver to that scale. So I think that is kind of an engineering problem that we are constantly kind of solving for or trying to like improve upon behind the scenes. So yeah, like how do you keep up with that kind of growth? And I feel like that creates a lot of challenges, not just from a technology standpoint, but how do you grow your organizations? How do you grow your people? How do you grow your systems, processes to deliver to that scale? So I feel like that's kind of been a theme, and that's what keeps us busy across the board at this point, our engineering teams. So I'm leading all of engineering here, and since I joined, we've like literally more than 2x'd the size of the engineering team. It went from under 40 people to over 90 people, again within that like year and a half. So it's exciting, but then like it's also important to keep up with that growth, right? Because then you're also like bringing in new people, you're setting up new processes. Change is hard. Like we are a startup, we are agile, so that helps. But then how do you make sure like things that you're setting up are effective and are adding long-term value? So I feel like that's a constant challenge and things that keep me busy. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, like you said, I don't think there is like one size fits all kind of solution here. But I think the general, like, principles of problem solving is what you can apply everywhere. So when I am presented with a new problem, I kind of start with just understanding the problem statement a bit more, understanding like what it entails, what the actual pain points are, who the stakeholders are. And I think that kind of helps me understand what the unknowns are and make them like known unknowns. And then there is always like still a bucket of unknown unknowns. So then you kind of like factor in for those unknown unknowns, like you would factor or like, add some buffer. If you're planning, if you're trying to plan an engineering initiative, like you would add some buffer in, or like you'd kind of tackle that with some placeholders. But like for the known unknowns, like if you kind of get a good sense of what the problem statement is, what the pain points are, who the stakeholders are, what they want to achieve from it, I feel like that kind of helps you work towards a solution. And like how important it is too, right? I feel like at times things more urgent than they are. So I feel like if you kind of dive deeper into the problem statement and pain points, that also gives you a good assessment of whether this is a problem that needs to be solved right away, or this is something that you should wait on. So I feel like that assessment is super important as well. So I feel like I tend to do like a lot of those things before jumping into the solutioning right away. That's actually a great question. I feel like the whole development landscape has changed so much just in the last year or two. And I feel like the things that engineering teams used to optimize on 5 years ago, it's not the same as what, teams are or should be rather even optimizing on anymore. I feel like there are like general concepts which still hold true, where when you're talking about high functioning teams, you're talking about like a good working team. Not everyone on the team has to be perfect, but people have to be complementary, so the team is perfect. So I feel like that principle still holds true. And I feel like an extension to that is like having good open communication, transparency on the team, good culture where people feel comfortable sharing their opinions, ideas, concerns. I think that always, it lasts long, and that really helps you build high functioning teams. And even with like these new technologies that come in, new development practices that come in, I feel like that principle still holds true. I think one, development cycles are better. I think there's certain aspects where I think it's easier to quantify because AI can help you, resolve some of those ambiguities in advance. But like, I think generally speaking, again, like the basic principles still hold true. The other thing is, I feel like in addition to the sort of AI development workflows, the other thing that is kind of still very prevalent and maybe very relevant for us is remote work. We are fully remote. Our engineering teams are literally spread across the globe. So I think it's very important to strike a good balance on like remote work and how do you kind of set expectations in remote work. So I feel like that has become very important, especially like in my last job, we were through the pandemic, we moved to a more hybrid working model where people would go to the office if they want, and some people would still choose to work from home for the most part. But like, we are a fully remote company and that's not changing. So we all enjoy remote work, but that kind of brings its own sets of challenges. So kind of like, how do you navigate them? I feel like that is very relevant for us. Like, I think it's very important to set good expectations, good goals, tangible deliverables for the teams so they can kind of be set up for success. Otherwise, I feel like remote work can get very taxing and very ambiguous very quickly in certain aspects. Yeah, I think staying relevant is very important, especially in the tech world, because things keep changing around. I think generally I like to read a lot, so staying up with news, staying up to speed with like what new technologies are coming out. I like to listen to podcasts, and I think generally just like being intentional about learning something when you hear something new. So I try to practice that as well. So when I'm in conversations with my coworkers, with my teams, or in my professional circles outside of my office, I try to be a good listener, hear what are these newer themes, patterns, technologies that are emerging, and then reading up about them. I think that kind of helps me. And there's so much noise too, right? So it's kind of important to also be wise about how you are spending your time and mental bandwidth it on like what you're learning, how you're learning. Honestly, I feel like that is where these AI tools come in handy, right? Like you can go, send a topic to ChatGPT, Claude, and they would come up with like very intelligent answers, would give you kind of a good framework on how to go about learning a new technology, a new thing. But I guess like the precursor to that is knowing what it is that you want to learn and just like kind of staying up to speed with like more current affairs, current technologies. And like, yeah, I guess one of the ways to pick that up is through like general conversations, news, articles, things that keep coming out. I think definitely be curious, and I know this is very generic advice, but be curious, ask more questions, raise your hand, and like sign up for difficult things, because those difficult things help you learn more about a problem, a solution, and your own self as well. So I think that's kind of very generic advice. But if you're especially wanting to get into an engineering management, engineering leadership role, actively like seek those opportunities. Maybe start with like managing smaller projects within the team, projects that have like dependencies across teams, across organizations. So you get to work with different stakeholders, you get to develop those skills, and yeah, like just slowly try to like increase the scope of those things. And again, like kind of going back to the earlier point, like stay curious, ask more questions, and I think that also like naturally, organically helps you increase the scope of the problems that you're signing up for, the projects you're signing up for. And I feel like a lot of the times, a lot of these things hide in plain sight. So there might be a business problem that is just sitting out there, but there is not enough bandwidth to go solve it, or there is no like obvious solution to it. But if like you are kind of curious, you should like those are the kind of projects to gravitate to, because that is what kind of helps you create and like sharpen those skills, which would eventually create an engineering management career path for you, or at least that's how it worked for me. Honestly, that's the project management side of it. There's also like the people management side of it, which is very important. So I feel like engineering management has sort of like three sort of big pillars to it. One is the project management, one is the technical skill set that is needed, and then people management, which is also like, I think this is one of the most important skill sets that you need, and that is the biggest switch when you step into a manager role from an IC role. So, and like you can start out with like managing an intern, inculcating that skill. How do you like again like set expectations, how do you enable people? I feel like those are all the skills to learn. How do you give feedback, how do you grow people? So I feel like that's a different kind of ball game altogether. A lot of the times managers or like ICs are put into management positions without either being sort of exposed to those problems or being put in situations that would help them learn, or like just being exposed to frameworks would also help in that aspect. So if you are excited about moving to an engineering management career path, definitely like look into that area as well. Also, I feel like an IC engineering role is very different from a management role. It's a very different skill set, and from the outside, it might seem exciting to some people, but they might not truly enjoy it. So I think it is important to also understand that, right? Like whether you enjoy all of these aspects of engineering management, which is like literally like people management is a very and big aspect of it, because now your contribution to the team is not the code you write. It's literally how are you enabling these people, how are you setting them up for success, how are you building that perfect team. And I feel like it's a very different mindset, a different skill set that comes into play. And some people enjoy it, some people don't. And like I think it's important to also understand, right, whether that is something you truly are excited about or not. So we are a fully remote team, like fully remote company. And the idea behind that is to be able to tap into talent from different parts of the globe. That being said, for the longest time, we've tried to keep the core development within the US, at least US time zones. So I think having complementary teams in the LATAM region was always sort of, lucrative or like exciting for us. And Revelo kind of, is really good at that. It helps us tap into the LATAM talent. So, we could have complementary teams in those regions while we can still like continue to grow across the globe, tap into talent, but like not add sort of time zone overhead to our existing teams. I guess realistically, we've hired one engineer from the Revelo teams. He's still with us. I think it's coming close to a year at this point. So it's been amazing. And again, like the part of being able to tap into that talent, the knowledge that we have, like the whole talent pool in Latin regions that we can tap into, that is helpful. And especially I think for this specific role, we were trying to hire for a very specific skill set. We were kind of like, running into finding that specific skill set, or running into issues with like finding that right person for the team. So it just helped us expand beyond US. I think just like that knowledge is helpful. It is more enabling. That is there. That helps. And then the second part is, I feel like hiring through Revelo has been very easy. I feel like the fact that you guys go look for candidates, shortlist them, like there's sort of a partner we're working with on the Revelo side, that is super helpful, because that cuts down a lot of the effort on our end, where like my engineering leaders don't have to go spend time looking at like thousands of resumes, shortlisting them. So I think that is where Revelo comes into play as well. The fact that, like English speaking folks are sort of like, it's an important skill set for us too. So that is something that's pre-vetted. So I feel like all of those things enable us to focus more on the candidate we are hiring and ensuring like they are a good fit in terms of skill set, in terms of culture. So I think, yeah, that definitely is a huge help. Definitely, I think it's been a really good experience working with Revelo. Like I said, it helps you unlock a lot of talent pool outside of US. So I would definitely encourage people to leverage that. And the fact that like you all pre-vet candidates and that whole like, process behind the scenes, it enables your teams. So try Revelo out. We have been working with Revelo for a while and we absolutely love it. So yeah, that's my recommendation.